Welcome to Therapist Uncensored. Building on decades of professional experience, this podcast tackles neurobiology, modern attachment, and more in an honest way that's helpful in healing humans. Your session begins now with Dr. Ann Kelly and Sue Marriott.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Therapist Uncensored. Hey Sue.
Hey Ann Kelly, how are you doing?
I'm good. This is like one of my favorite episodes. And really this year has really stood out because we're going to talk about the exciting things that are coming. We're about to have a course come out this February. Very excited about that. Man, we've had our sleeves rolled up on this one.
You know, the other one that we did, it's been many years, was pretty dense, which was great for those who really wanted to deep dive. This one is going to be much more user-friendly and really focused on not so much the science, but more of what to do. It's going to be more clinically oriented for kind of your everyday person. And then hopefully, if all goes well, we'll add some modules and other things later to do the deeper dive in the science and the clinical piece. But since we've covered that so thoroughly, that we really want to make this accessible to everybody. And if you sign up now, you're going to get the best rate available. Everything that we're talking about, by the way, if you just go to therapistuncensored.com/events, you'll find the whole list of things there. And the course will be there. There's a webinar coming up that's free. One of the things I'm really excited about, we're going to be speaking at a couple of conferences, but there's one in particular that, we're holding our hand out right now and we're inviting you to specifically.
Yeah, Psychotherapy Networker this March in Washington, D.C. We went last year and it was our first year to go. And we were really, really impressed. And to be able to come back and be a speaker at that conference, it really is heartwarming and intimidating because, wow, the list
and terrifying.
It is the list of speakers and the people that we learn from, some of which we've had on the podcast and are going to have on the podcast. But wow, I just felt like we got so much out of the whole experience.
That's right. We're training junkies, go to a lot of conferences, are always doing those things. So it was surprising that we hadn't been to this particular one. But we really want to invite you to go. It is a one-stop shop. It is so fun. It's packed. You'll definitely meet people from all over. And, one of the things I liked about it too was that it was such a large conference that you didn't get that thing where the people that go all the time already know each other. And so then you feel on the outside.
Right.
It was so big that there were so many, many opportunities to connect. So if you would like to go, the very best link so that you get the best rates, 40% off, you go to pesi.com/TU. And then you want to get another $50 off by adding SYM50. SYM50. It's a great deal. It's going to be fun. And we really, really hope to see you there. And if you come, be sure and give us a shout. And hopefully we can,
meet up.
We can meet.
That would be fun. And I know why all this is happening, because as you hear later, as we talk about the year and wrap up, you're going to hear where all of this inspiration actually is landing, why we're running on excited energy to do some different things and offer it, because I feel like we've learned so much this year. So we're going to be doing a live meetup once a month, and it's the Vitality series. So you can come to the first one and no other ones, or you can join and come. They're all standalone, but we're going to meet together, and we're going to be doing this with Delinda Spain. Awesome woman. If you were at the conference here in Austin, she was a big part of helping us run the group program. Love her. You will too. There's really obvious ways that we spend our energy and we give up too much, but there's also a lot of less obvious ways that we don't really recognize. The series is going to be about recognizing it. It's going to be about ways to build and hold your vitality and hold your energy during difficult times, during difficult points in our country, but also in your relationships, and just kind of living a meaningful life in the way you really want to be doing it, preserving yourself for those activities that mean the most to you. So join us if you'd like on this monthly adventure. We're going to do it as a group. So lots of deep conversations. We had just finished a post-election meetup, and so many people felt like the ability to sit and talk together was such a healing and connecting process, something that we are not being able to do enough of. So I'm really thrilled we're going to get to sit and talk together, not just talk at. So we are going to be presenting information, but really it's about sitting and talking with about these kind of topics.
And you can find out more about that again at that same page, therapistsuncensored.com/tu. And so look for the Vitality series. A quick mention too, for those of you who are group therapists, one of the best trainings that you can possibly do is the American Group Psychotherapy Society. That's also coming up in San Francisco. And I'm going to be presenting a 2-day deep dive institute. So it's pretty intense, it's pretty good. But beyond that, there's a whole bunch of offerings. So if you've ever considered, basically learning how to do therapy while you're in a group, you're learning through immersion. You're not just thinking about it, you're actually doing it. So I want to encourage you to think about that. American Group Psychotherapy Society.
And that's in San Francisco this year. So that is going to be fun. I would love to see people there as well.
So one of the things that we just recently did, and I do want to do a shout out for all of you who attended any of those post-election meetings. Thank you so much for coming. You were certainly part of our process, and hopefully we were part of yours. And several groups got launched from those meetings. So that's exciting and interesting. But we probably should start from the beginning.
Well, what I was going to say when you said the several groups have started, one of which is there's some reading groups that you might really want to jump into that are about to that are about to kick off. So again, same page, check it out. We've got also some special things for the Patreon Supercast members coming up as well. So
it's so funny. Golly, there's so much to talk about. That's right. We are absolutely rejuvenated. Thank you so much. If you are a Supercast, Patreon, Neuro Nerd, are part of our online community, we've got some really incredible people there that have stayed with us for many years and been supportive. And we thank you. And now that a lot of this stuff is kind of finished, we're going to be revitalizing that group. And this Vitality series is going to be part of that. You don't have to be a member, but you'll get discounts on everything that we do. Yeah, so check that out. That's therapistsuncensored.com/join. It's a great time to do it because we're going to be building and we're really listening and we want to hear kind of what would be useful to you.
So let's talk about this past year. And it was interesting. I was mentioning just before we turned on this episode to record that the thing that was powerful for me in the year in review was I could really recognize my own personal journey in it, probably more so than any year before. And what I mean by that is just how much I was personally impacted by some of the interviews and the conversations and the things that we attended. And it seemed there was a lot of centering on dealing with really difficult emotions, difficult experiences, and how to do it in a way that we can stay really much more engaged with ourselves. I don't know. As we went through it, I was like, wow, that one really impacted this one. And then we wanted to have this person on. And it just felt like the conversation kept going deeper and deeper.
Yeah, it kind of kept evolving. For me, it was going deeper, but it was also going wider. Instead of just our stream of our normal psychotherapy stuff that we always do, the thing, I think we both are extremely excited about continuing this journey of widening and recognizing just some of our automatic things. At the end of last year, we were already doing this quite a bit, but Melody Lee's conversation, and speaking with them, they said at the time, you're going to get blowback. And we did. And we're not making change if we're not having some controversy. So that was was the launch, I think, of the years.
Yes, it was. And what they were talking about was decolonizing mental health. And so the focus, and that was the beginning of the year, was really unlearning patterns that are deeply within us and rooted in us, and starting to broaden the recognition of how much those are patterns that we have learned that block our connection with one another. So that was episode 227 and 228. And then we went along this way, we went into the conference and we spoke about this on an episode, but we went to AGPA last year and we met Lisa Case and we went to a full day event on improv. And it was such an impactful thing because we were talking about hard conversations, how to have conversations about race and gender and all these things in a way that is really dividing us as a culture. And we were going to spend a whole day with improv, and we were very anxious in going in, and how the art of play and connection just emerged. Do you remember that conference?
I totally 100% do. I'm so glad that you brought that up. We had the experience of in one workshop where a very diverse group, everybody feeling safe. Again, this is a nervous system thing. Everyone feeling safe to open up about their own being a perpetrator and being perpetrated against. You know what I mean? Like both sides. Everybody was looking at both sides. It was so safe and we got so close and it was so incredible. And then we would pop into another workshop and it would be the same subjects, but it was so divisive and scary and gotcha that it didn't move the conversation forward. And one of the things for sure that came out of that was Ann and I's clarity about this focus on co-regulating and helping people maintain their secure mind, especially during hard conversations. That safety is really, really important. And then that's how growth happens. And it's true. Me too, Ann. I've grown so much. I mean, I realize now that I'm such a baby. I didn't know that. I kind of
so
thought I knew
true.
it.
Me too.
I thought I knew a few things, and I'm excited to like not know again and to be learning so much. Sheena Young was one of my favorite episodes. She's so beautiful. Again, it was that same thing, liberation and bringing in non-traditional, not the straight kind of Western-oriented mental health that most of us are familiar with. That one was episode 230. So if you missed that, that would be one that I would direct you back to. The other thing we did just kind of as we kind of processed through the year is the launch of our book was obviously a big part of this year. Woohoo, Secure Relating. We would love for you, if you haven't yet, securerelatingbook.com. It's critically acclaimed. You know, we had the attachment experts as our chapter readers, the neuroscientists as our neuroscience readers. And that was a big thing. And it was accompanied by a live course here in Austin, Texas, that we had such a blast being able to be in person with over 200 therapists. Really fun.
That was really funny. I think this whole year when we did a 3-part series, by the way, of talking through the book. The first part about learning about the science, the second part about learning how to sort of apply it in everyday life and then in relationships. But as we're talking through this, like the thing about the core part of secure relating literally has to do with being able to train your brain, your mind, your body, and your emotions for dealing with complex emotions and learning how to recognize how your defenses are often blocking you. And so we launched that, in the spring, and then interviewed so many of the most amazing people around these concepts. And I felt like how to deal with difficult emotions was frequently a topic, right? We talked about Lisa Kay and the focus on fun.
Well, fun, strategic fun, right?
Yes.
Right. Not like we're just not going to care about the horrors that are happening in the world, but strategic fun to be able to continue to learn and stay engaged and grow.
Well, and how to have difficult conversations by lightening your body up in a way that it's not threatening to say, hey, this is kind of my background. How does that fit for you? And
right.
we just watched.
I'm from a non-racist, racist family.
Yes.
Those kinds of things. Yeah.
Well, and it was happening both ways. It wasn't just the sort of the shameful, I'm holding my hat because I'm a white individual who has all this naivete and I'm not getting shamed. It's like we were all talking about our naivete and our ability to connect and our desire to do it. And getting back to that, I think recognizing some of the biases that are in our body that we don't like, that even sort of the belief in going fast, the belief in needing to be the most powerful or individual over the collective, how much that's been conditioned in our body, and then how much we feel anxiety if we're not meeting that standard that is really kind of not even consistent with our values.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love you kind of bringing up just our own personal changes through this.
Mm-hmm.
That like the improv was an example of this bottom up
Yeah, watching the difference of like instead of because I guess to get into when you said the value of play in a good way, there's so much about our culture and how we were colonized, et cetera, that is focused on work first. And the idea of connecting through play and lightness, and that also like there's only one right way to answer anything. And improv was about, wait, there's multiple perspective and multiple ways. And how do we tolerate that and actually enjoy it rather than feel threatened by it?
Right. And improv is, for many of us, very threatening.
Oh, it was the whole
Because there's
idea.
there's no order, rules, like, how do we do this? It was really interesting. I totally learned a lot. And, in this vein of learning outside the box and kind of bottom up, there was a conversation I had with Nigel Denning from
Mm,
Australia, episode 244 on psychedelics. And what I liked about that, we've had a couple of those, but what I liked about that was being in Australia, they were ahead of us in the US. So he had some more forward thinking thoughts as it rolls out into the mental health world. So that one was interesting. And then his colleague, David Elliott, very dear friend of ours, we got to catch
yeah.
up with him again.
We did.
And
We got to interview. We did get to have a whole conversation, the three of us, which was so much fun.
And still, if you are really into attachment and want to get the very best, thorough, ongoing training, we recommend his course. It'll be in our show notes. And it's the Integrative Attachment series, basically.
One thing that was fun is we got to bring in and talk with some good friends of ours that have been on, but just we dove a little bit deeper, like Julianne Taylor Shore. Did another episode with her on boundaries and how to hold boundaries in a way that's really powerful and that helps us then deal with these really difficult conversations because we're not so reactive and we're not so activated, that we can have a space between people in order to be able to connect without as much threat.
Yeah, that's right. She's always so fun and makes everything so totally usable. Another one I really liked, and Akila Riley Richardson. This one was really fun because it was about working with marginalized couples, and I learned so much. And she is going to also be a psychotherapy networker. That was episode 245. So again, this was still the vein of expanding beyond our own Western traditional training. And speaking of it, in this theme, again, of like going either broader or deeper, was these experiential dynamic therapies.
Yeah, we got to interview who are now good friends because we went to that wonderful conference, but we interviewed Margaret Martin and Dr. Deb Polak. And that was like, we learned about different types of therapy, and that was one of them, the experiential dynamic therapies. Those were really powerful. And the conversation we had, that was episode 246 on the process of recognizing our defenses that are blocking us, but recognizing it in a way that you really take it on head on. And that kind of approach was really powerful. We learned a lot from that conversation, so much so that we went to that conference. And I felt like you and I came back really having more tools in our belt for ourselves, but also for our clients about how to help people stay in and recognize the defenses and the anxiety it's blocking.
It's not that often that you come out of a workshop with that much to carry out, at this stage of our careers. So that was pretty incredible. And one of my takeaways that I want to share from several of these episodes, and particularly I want to call out Nigel Denning with, he was really talking about, you don't just go do psychedelics. You have to have a theory of mind around what's happening and where you want it to go, and kind of understanding that from a therapeutic standpoint. And then that was really what ADP was talking about. Not ADP.
Right.
We did do Diana Fosha, which I want to get to, but the experiential dynamic therapies, there was a takeaway for me around, yes, you can do somatic therapy. Yes, you can do expressive work. Yes, you can do body, experiential bottom up stuff, but that still, how does that actually integrate into the personality? And so many people have general defenses. So yes, I'm going to have even EMDR. So I have these experiences, but then what about just my general unconscious defenses? So yes, I get to release that, which is wonderful. but also how do we integrate it into the whole person? And really, again, it's this idea of having theory of mind. So it's not just compartmentalizing and doing body work, but it was just a really beautiful, like moving back into, okay, how can we integrate it more fully? And as I say it out loud, it doesn't sound like that big of a takeaway, but the way that I mean it
You can feel it as you're saying it.
The way that I mean it really is, it was a light bulb around a particular piece that I have really appreciated, and it felt like it made sense.
Well, it feels like the emphasis is like, yes, we can have these different experiences, but it's the deeper integration of it in a conceptualization of who we are as our personality and how we live together.
Yeah, it makes me think about our unconscious narratives.
Right.
We call them in our book, and just the way we refer to them as our attachment maps. And so, yeah, you do the trauma work about something, but you still have your attachment map. So you still have these defensive, especially under stress, we still have these defensive ways of relating unconsciously. And so we want to integrate that particular thing so that we actually change the narrative.
Right.
And we work to change that's right. We work to change the implicit narrative towards a more secure, coherent story. And that is definitely both a bottom up and a top down, bringing those things together in this integrated way.
I love it. It's not like, okay, you've resolved the trauma, so there you go. Now, because you've learned, no matter what's happened to us, we have learned these deeper patterns. And even as we heal those parts of us, we still have those patterns. And being able to recognize them is difficult.
It has kicked my ass.
That's what, me too. This year, that's why I would say this year has been an ass kicking. And I think that's one reason why I was sort of excited as we reviewed it. And I went through chronologically, we talked about, we're not going to go from one step to the next, but I could easily do that because I could really feel the building of each one that then helped the defenses come more to light. Ones that I thought I had my arms around. I'm like, oh, wait.
It's true.
It
was humbling, and hopefully will stay that way. And I've renewed. One of the things that I've shifted is I've renewed a desire to do deeper work for myself.
Yes.
And what we haven't mentioned, speaking of the election and what happened with that related to the meetings. I guess we did mention at the top of the episode, but that was really meaningful around providing a holding space for that's really non-political, but a holding space for folks that were affected, impacted, surprised, just in shock about the election results, as a way of holding safety to begin to come back together and to sort of process what happened and what's next, and what, how to stay connected, how to stay engaged, how not to, just kind of kill yourself off in apathy or be fist shaking at the world.
Yeah, and how to recognize what that's doing to your nervous system in a way that you can be compassionate and caring, but also that it moves. Like, it was really interesting to see, we did it every 2 weeks, and to see the movement from what was happening in our nervous system to the broadening to how much connection really mattered and healed, and just being able to hear one another. And that's really where the Vitality series came from. It's like, wow, watching that and knowing that we can continue to build on something like that. And then the different things that we learn from different guests, from different therapy modalities. It's not like, oh, this modality is the answer, all your answers, right? It's like each one felt like it was shedding kind of a different lens. Like, I really enjoyed talking with Diana Hill. She talked about ACT, and I had not. I'd heard of ACT, and it's acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT therapy. I'd heard of it. I've known it. I've read a few things about it. But her deep dive into it really put some light bulbs for me, because she was talking about the idea of how to get more psychological flexibility through the acceptance and the commitment of the real painful things that happen to us, taking it head on rather than, oh, change that thought. You don't have to have that negative thought. It was the flow, again, of the theme of really knowing that we have the power to deal with difficult emotions, and then how to integrate it so that we're not just living in the reactivity.
Totally love that. And I like what you said too about that we're, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And so it's It's funny because, as you say, learning to accept our trauma, it sort of sounds like, yeah,
Yeah.
but I totally know what you mean. I totally, this radical acceptance, there are these tiny little light bulbs about like, oh, it's just a little bit different
Yeah.
and more whole and more loving. And speaking of Diana, for sure, if you missed Diana Fosha, who was a very recent episode, I think that was 251, really encourage you to check that out. She is a master and has taught thousands of therapists, and I got the chance to sit down with her. She also is going to be at the Psychotherapy Network. I'm pretty sure. I saw her last year there. That's what gave me the idea to bring her on. I had been trained by her many, many years ago, but saw her again last year at Psychotherapy Networker and just totally was like, oh my gosh, I've got to bring her on. She's just incredible. And she was. And likely she'll be at the next Psychotherapy Networker. So I meant to mention that again. So episode 251, really encourage you to check it out. But again, it's all of these things is about, just all these ways to see ourselves more honestly, to not shy away from it, to get enough resources to keep looking and to not go into our pattern defensive strategies. Unless you get the resources and the support, then of course we're going to go into the defensive patterns. Like we're going to not know what we don't know and not be interested in it. So and it's just such a privilege to have an opportunity to do this kind of work, to be bringing these people on and bridging them to so many people. And hopefully, with each thing, like just adding just a little bit of support for folks to really have the resources to do that hard thing of being honest with themselves and honest with each other.
Yeah, I love what you're saying there.
Hey, every now and then we want to remind everybody that we want to thank our sponsors. Without them, we would not be able to continue to provide this free and totally accessible around the globe, all over the world. So we really do appreciate our sponsors. If you would prefer an ad-free feed, you can certainly get that at therapistsuncensored.com/join. For as little as $5 a month, you can get an ad-free feed and be part of our Neuro Nerd community. But in the meantime, again, we really love and appreciate our sponsors because it gives us these incredible opportunities. And our very first sponsor ever that has continued to be our sponsor, I wanted to give you an update on them because we are continuing to use them. That is AG1. Ann and I still use it daily. It's part of our morning routine. And here's why. We want to make sure we get all the high quality vitamins, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens we need every day. And we are ridiculously busy. So one scoop of AG1 in our smoothie guarantees basic nutritional cornerstones are met before we are even out the door. It is efficient, which we appreciate, and it tastes really good. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you will certainly appreciate how hard stress is on the body for us. And anything that we can do to reduce stress is very good. And we also, I'm sure, appreciate how important our gut biome is. And it's always really hard to figure out what to do to help your gut biome. You can definitely hear, it affects mood, it affects thinking, it affects, it's basically our second brain. But it's always hard to know kind of exactly what to do to have a good, healthy gut. Well, we turn to AG1 for that. Their parent company, Athletic Greens, keeps up with the latest science, and based on the latest data, they iterate their product to keep improving it. Plus, the ingredients are tested by a third party to ensure that what they say is what you get. So, based on my experience taking AG1 and my snooping around to make sure that they were good company, I recommend you check them out at athleticgreens.com/therapist-uncensored. Be sure and use that link because for our listeners, they will give you a free year's supply of vitamin B and free travel packs for you to be able to take this superpower on the road with you. That's athleticgreens.com/therapist-uncensored.
As we talk about these different therapies, for those of you that are non-therapists out there, the conversation isn't for therapists necessarily, like this is how you go learn this, even though we might reference it. It really is like, what do you take from this type of therapy? What can you take from this type of therapy that is been found to be really effective to use in your everyday life. They're really everyday conversations. They're not conversations just for therapists.
I love that you say that, because that's totally right. Like, even like when we were learning about, one of the most, the AAI, the adult attachment projective, AAP, it's so sciencey and it's so embedded in so much research and things like that. But there's these takeaways of like things that you can learn. Like, I don't want you to have to go get trained. I don't want you to have to go get the assessment. I just want you to get immediately to have the benefits. So, yeah, we're trying to bridge everybody from the lab or from the therapy offices to the world, and that's fun.
Use it in your everyday life. Take these ideas, and each presenter is just talking much more deeply how it affects their life in an everyday way. And I loved like not knowing about ACT enough or ADP, like, because we got to be, take us along the path of why this has been so instrumental for you and your life and your clients. And we're like this little light bulbs that we got to have all year
Yeah,
long.
lots of light bulb. This has been a light bulb year for sure.
Well, one of the things that has affected me is like interesting is we're talking about decolonizing, but we're also just talking about like going deeper into our assumptions that we've been learned that aren't helping us.
And that are actively hurting.
They're actively hurting us and disconnecting us.
And other people, actively hurting other people.
Thank you for that reframe. That's really true, because with my ignorance and some of the ways that I was coming across and some of the things that I hadn't recognized, yeah, it's hurtful and it's disconnecting. I think the most powerful thing that's happened for me personally, though, is that in deepening my awareness of this, I think I've let go of reactive shame. Like not let go.
That's a big thing to say.
Well, okay, let me so helpful.
You're healed.
I have not let go. I'm more aware of my reactive shame, and I'm living less in it with our own kids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
With our own kids, where something said, I'm like, you think, and I'm ready to jump in and challenge. Or even relationships that we forgot to mention, probably one of my most favorite episodes of the whole year, I have to say, is the live one we did with Pam Benson Owens. We did a live one at Kuya. I realized that the title might not draw people in, because Kuya was a wonderful experience, but it doesn't say what you're going to get. If you haven't listened to that episode, I really, really highly encourage you to do so. But it was one of my favorites, and is episode 248. And the title of that talk was Secure Relating Through Tough Conversations. And one of the transformations that I think I had is I got less scared of my own ignorance and more open to the vulnerability in it. And I think Pam really was part of my journey personally in helping me do that, where I feel less fearful of looking at my stuff and more motivated, instead of sort of either avoiding it or being a little too scared to say something wrong.
Right, like white guilt. And
yes, like so much of that's like, it's almost like the more aware you get of some things, you can go, oh my God, now I have guilt, and now I'm going to be more frozen because I can't get anything right. And I really do think there's a lot of political discussion that makes people feel like that's the goal out there, is to feel shame when you're looking at things. And it really isn't. It's like the freeing and the element of deeper connection that has emerged from me and my relationships that I would have been more scared of and not recognized, or maybe even avoided trying to be close. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
It makes total sense. And I agree with you. Now I know more what you're talking about. When you said, I let go of my reactive shame, I was like, wow, that sounds like you're done.
Yeah, I'm so far from that.
But I do know.
I recognize it.
No, but I actually know now what you were talking about, that used to, that the kids, and by kids, we mean young adults, are very quick to point out all kinds of things that we're doing wrong.
Yes.
And sometimes not kindly, rather enthusiastically and energetically. And
gotcha.
It's a little bit of a gotcha, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, you have really come down from the ceiling from that. And for me, one of the things, like, I'm aware of their shame.
Yes.
And that what causes the gotcha to begin with is really trying to get it right. And, then policing other people to get it right, versus the other thing I was thinking as you were talking was like, you're more resourced. Mm-hmm. So you have a wider breadth of what you can tolerate in yourself. Yes. And also, you're not then the subject of, if somebody's doing a gotcha to you, then there's projected shame. So not only do we have our own, but we have theirs that they're trying to get rid of and hand to us. So I really, you're right about, I can see a like big change, and it's really lovely, and it's helped me a lot. It's helped me kind of stay in my seat and be able to stay engaged and continue to learn and grow.
Yeah, when you said it feels more resourced, that you really hit the nail on the head, because I think that is the excitement again, the motivation. As you and Delinda and I were at the conference together talking about the increase in resourcefulness when you start to do this, and the more empowerment. And so really the excitement about the Vitality series was really centered on that.
Well,
And
because we
building
can't
that.
do it alone. This idea of
No.
needing more resource. This is too much for any single person. And
Yes.
so whether, you're connecting locally, or whether you're connecting with us, or whether you're connecting with your therapist or your partner, or the idea would be, oh, I love that. You mentioned the reading group. The one we're going to do next is braiding sweetgrass. And there was this beautiful quote about redwood trees and how tall they are, and that you would think that they would have, deep roots, but in actuality, their roots go side to side and tangle with each other, so they hold each other up. And that's how these redwoods can be so tall and so crowded, so that they're not actually, you would think that they would be competing for light and trying to go fastest to get it and things like that, when in actuality, they're in these cooperative communities. And that just is so meaningful to me around, like, I'm visually, like I'm elbow to elbow with somebody, or a line of people, and then a line of people behind me that have come before, and then the people that are coming forward. And that is resource. Now from that perspective, where I'm lined up, I'm just one little tiny link with this huge chain, depth and breadth, and then spiritual, high, sky to the ground. Now I'm resourced, and I can go kick some ass. I had to let my ass get kicked. And again, that's not over. That's happening a lot. And then I survived because of the resources. And, once we do that kind of stuff, now we can go and make change in the world and call people out that need to be called out, do all the things that in your sphere, wherever you're listening from, there's probably a small thing that like, hey, when I'm a little more resourced, I'm going to do this thing. And, around human rights, or around fairness, or a neighbor that might need a hand, or whatever it is, or an issue to look at inside yourself. But I just wish that through our words, that literally going into your ears somewhere, right around the whole world, that we could be giving you, maybe we can, right? That we care, we know you're listening, and we want to give you resource into your heart and into your mind and into your body. And that part of that resource is to think of the communities that you're connected with, and think of the people that have come before you and that you're working for that haven't come yet. And boom, right then, maybe there's, the bar goes up even a millimeter around security in the world. Okay, that's a rather, lofty goal, but I believe that kind of stuff.
I do too. And I feel like it's inspiring. I think we had to go this really powerfully difficult year. And it's like you said, it's going to continue. We're not sitting there, oh, now we've got it, check. But I'm not scared to do that deep thing, because I'm feeling the empowerment from it. I'm feeling the outcome of it, and feeling grateful for the people that have been my teachers along the way, and being able to jump on our podcast. And I love the tree quote. It was very inspiring when you read that in our large group, because it's all about the connection and the connective roots.
The invisible connected.
Right. And it goes beyond that kind of me first. If I give up something, then I'm going to give more to others. And it's like, wow, we are so much more empowered in connection, and in connection with one another. And I can see how much I've contributed. I've said this over and over this year, to the divisiveness that I see happening in our country. And I've been such a blamer. Oh my God, this divisiveness is happening because of all of that over there. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I could see how my not dealing with my own resources was such a contributor to shaming other people and judging. I can really feel it. And it's helpful to now go, wait, my motivation now is really looking more humbly and more deeply in connection and to inspire other people to do that. We're going to want to grow elements of connection for those out there that really believe and want more human rights and want more connections and less divisiveness. And I
That's
really
right.
do think we can spread that by doing the work ourselves and offering people the hand, others that want to do that,
That's
a
right.
place to join while we are.
Yeah. Another just quick example, I think, of that is that I had gone through, I think everybody's gone through a lot, and we're talking about like looking at ourselves and going through things. And I was trying to kind of find like, if I begin to look at the problems in the world and think about all the people, including ourselves as women and as a gay couple, that have a target on them, but our trans friends and our immigrant friends and so on and so forth. And it can easily get overwhelmed with the work that is needed. And how do you live in an environment in Texas where we have a border to our south? What's going to be happening there? And just for me personally, one of the things that happened is as I went internally, instead of like needing care and like kind of that softness, what I ended up with, I'm headed to a popular movie in this conversation. So in this story,
no. Are we going there?
We're going there. We're going there. And I was so depressed and down and just sorrow. I had so much sorrow around like, this is impossible. This is not, how does any human bear the sorrow in the world? I was a mess. And then it began to kind of come to me, this, I don't know exactly how to describe it, but basically these images and sounds and feelings of people that have been around forever, women on drums, giving birth by themselves, doing this super hard thing. It was not soft. There was no lullaby. It was battle cry. It was war. And all of a sudden it just snapped into my head. I was like, oh, this is why everybody is so drawn to this movie, Wicked, and her song and her,
Usually Sue breaks into song right
don't
here.
worry.
She's holding
I won't
herself
do
back.
I'm holding myself back. I'm obsessed with this movie. Totally.
I love it.
But it really, 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 I sort of made up in my own mind that battle cry around resistance and we're going to do this. So if you haven't seen the movie, I know that you've been inundated with the advertisements and stuff like that. But that cry at the end, it's like, okay, we've got shit to do. We've got to, mobilize.
We have to mobilize. We will stand together to say racism and homophobia and transphobia and all the isms, they're not okay.
Yeah.
And we can stand together and really know there's a lot of people, no matter where you are out there, that believe that and that we can unify. And we have to seeing that movie and how relevant it is to this very moment. I didn't speak to anybody that didn't leave going impacted by that, and just how much we need each other to do hard things and to stand in and not go flat or disconnected or disengage or say I give up or
right. And if you're in that state, it's okay.
yeah,
and
that's true.
It really, because it is too much. And you're right about all of those things. Another image that was helpful to me was, I think I've mentioned this on the show before, but I use it sometimes when I'm feeling more hopeless. But like when there's a fire and it burns down all the fauna and everything, and that there's this order of what comes back, and like it's a little weed, and then the weed catches the thing, but it looks like nothing's happening. But these little groups that are popping up in your own communities or online, many people were doing these Zoom groups. Those are these little pop-ups that then things grab and new things happen and things build. And so if you're looking at the field, it looks like just like a little patch of grass, meaningless patch of grass. But if you look across the field, there's another, patch of grass, and then another one. And basically, as these little things grow, eventually we can begin to see each other. Right now, you're going to feel like you're the only patch of grass. Patch of grass. How about that? Yeah, but be part of a patch of grass. Find your people. Find them. Connect. Do that shoulder to shoulder. Create your patch of grass. and know that that's happening all over.
Yes. One of the things that was the outcome of our meetings where people were sharing other resources they're finding that are actually inspiring for connection, and so there are patches of grass really building out there and doing that in connection. I mean, that's also, again, why we want to really invigorate our Patreon Supercast, because it's a place that we can gather. We have this forum that we can do it. So, but there's lots of different ones out there. So,
And then another
but
thing I
join
want
one.
to,
Be part of a connection, be part of community.
Totally. Patch of
And
grass.
not just the part of the community that is watching news for 15 minutes and feeling disgusted and then walking away, but like really protecting yourself so that this feeling of vivaciousness can continue to help you motivate. One thing that was like the group that met, there were several people, there were many people that spoke that had never spoken in a group, and they were so nervous, and they were isolated in different areas of the world and country. And they hopped on and they said, and then they got to share and hear that people were thinking and feeling and doing things. And people have different passions. Some people have passion for global to help with the climate, but that they got on and spoke. And if you're like, this is the first time I've ever spoken in a large context, and they felt safe enough and inspired. The woman talking about critical thinking, like really feeling like she'd never really learned how to do that. Those were so impactful, weren't they?
100%.
Inspiring.
Totally inspiring. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely lots of reason to have hope, and we also approach hope as a position, as almost like a political position, if you will. It's a stance. Mm-hmm. Hope is a stance, not a feeling, and without it, we're doomed. Just people in general are doomed. But I also want to say congratulations, Ann Kelly, just that the podcast is still going, and we're over how many downloads?
Over 11 million downloads.
That is incredible. Like, really, we should just think about that for a minute. 11 million individual downloads of our episodes over the years. Amazingly, we remain ranked in Apple's top 10 social sciences with stuff like Hidden Brain and these highly produced shows. You're learning from women, which, again, that's in the podcast world, that's a big deal, rare thing. And then you're also learning from gay women, just by ourselves. We're just producing it ourselves. So that's something, we should sometimes just take a minute and be like, dang, that's pretty good.
That is. Congratulations, Sue Marriott.
Congratulations, Kelly. And congratulations to all of you listening.
That's what I was going to say. What feels like, I know when you're saying learning from women, I think it's like we're learning together, right? Like it's a two-way engagement. I know it doesn't sound like that in the podcast, but it really, really is, from the listeners that write in, the Supercast members that give information to us. But I think what it says is that there's so many people out there in the world that want deeper connection and want to relate more securely with one another. And that's what's inspiring. It's inspiring because the content of wanting to learn this kind of information to stay in connection is inspiring to people, and they want that. That's what really, I think, excites me about those numbers.
Another thing that happened this year that we need to mention before we go is that for some weird reason, we got kicked off of, we didn't get kicked off. We lost our feed on Spotify.
It was a technical glitch, but
some
nobody could own it.
That we were in between, that our host said it wasn't them and they swear it wasn't them, and Spotify said it wasn't them, and it doesn't matter. We had to reset the show, and by resetting it, we lost all of our subscribers. We lost all of our ratings and reviews. And it has an impact on us related to being able to sell ads. And then what we do with our ads is that half of that goes to supporting mental health for marginalized individuals.
And the other half goes to really helping us keep the show going.
Not an extra,
but just really helps us keep the show going.
So we do have a request for you. Hopefully you've gained value listening to this conversation or through the show, or maybe you refer people to it. But if you would stop and take a second and go to Spotify, and even if you've heard the show before, you have to listen first if it's been reset.
Because they won't know that you've ever listened before.
They won't know. And they started blacking out they would only let 4 stars be shown. I think we tried to find out why. I think it has to do with if you haven't listened to the show, but that's being figured out. But point being is to listen to a little bit on Spotify, even if you turn it all the way down and just let it play. Okay. It has to know, I'm saying it has to know that you've listened, and then you rate it, and that will begin to slowly. And also if you'll go ahead and follow through Spotify, so we can slowly begin to build up our subscription back there.
So
And-
listen to the show, and so in order to if you've already listened to it, you could turn it back on and turn it down. So if you've already listened to it, but you didn't get credit because it was before, turn it down. But
well, they've already listened to it because they're listening to us right now.
well, there you go. If there's on Spotify, then we've done it.
Exactly. Right. So Spotify is a goal.
Yeah. So that would be a real gift.
That would
if
be a
y'all could do
real
that
gift.
And have your friends listen and
Yep.
rate us, because we would like to at least get up to half of what we have done and earned over the last 8 to 9 years.
1.3 thousand on Apple reviews, that is. And I don't know what it was on Spotify, but
it was over.
That's how many we lost.
That's how many we lost. We lost a lot of reviews, and that's how people find the show. So it would really be meaningful
but
if you could stop right now
from
and do a review. Even if you've already done it, you can just hit 5 stars. You don't even have to rate a thing. It's just literally the stars will get us noticed.
But one of the things that did was I was like, oh, so what? Who cares? That kind of stuff. And again, everything that's happened, it keeps going back to community. It's like, I don't really care how big the show is. I care about the community. And that is, I hope that this is going to be reflected, and you can watch us and let us know over this next year of really focusing more on community and small community. And that's what's in store. And we're excited about it.
Absolutely.
And we're so grateful. Thank you for listening. Thank you, especially our Supercast and Patreon members. We're going to see you soon, no doubt, or at least you'll have the opportunity. And we wouldn't be here without you.
And if you want to be a Patreon Supercast member, please do.
That's
just
right.
go to
therapistsuncensored.com/join. The other thing is, if you just go to that website and search, you'll find, search for a topic you're interested in. It'll pop it up, that kind of thing. It's a really, our show notes are rich and have a whole lot in them. Oh, wait, just as we're saying, like asks or whatever, the other thing, if you will support our sponsors, so that we don't have very many of them because we're trying to limit that. And so those that are sponsoring us, if you go to their site, if you check it out, if you purchase some of the stuff, that's another way of directly supporting us. So thank you for that.
All right. Sue Marriott, it's been a great year. Well, it's been a difficult, hard, wonderful, powerful year.
It's been a good year for you and I.
It really has. It's, the book coming out was so many years of hard labor, and to be able to go to conferences and talk about it and meet people who are interested and excited about connecting and securely relating.
Another thing that I think maybe better and like more ready to engage is that now that the book is out, like it's done.
Yeah.
There's nothing hanging over our head. It's any of the hoopla is over. It just is what it is. It's a good book. I feel proud of it. But it's done. So
that's true.
Yeah. It freed up a lot of energy.
Well, what we forgot to mention in this year, we got to do that virtual launch where so many people joined us. Stan Tatkin and Carol George, who, the mother of part of the attachment research assessment.
Yeah, we had an incredible.
Yeah, that was. I was just thinking about how the experience of that rollout and how much. I think is that still available for people to watch and get to see some of?
I don't know.
Deborah Jakovich was on there. You've probably, if you've read anything about attachment, you've seen her name because she's
right.
Yeah, like that was a really wonderful
Sheena
experience.
Williams, Linda Ty was there.
Oh yeah.
So tons of people. We're not naming them all because I don't want to leave anybody out. But
that was powerful. All right,
really incredible.
So that is our year cap, and it's been
a lot.
It's been a lot. So this is so thank you if you were still listening and you got to hear all. I mean, I was going to say got to or willing to hear about our year recap. We appreciate you.
And we'd love to hear from you. You can always reach us, Sue at Therapist Uncensored and at therapistsuncensored.com. Otherwise,
thanks for joining us, and we'll see you around the bend.
Therapist Uncensored is Ann Kelly and Sue Marriott. This podcast is edited by Jack Anderson.